Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 14, Episode 26. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. Dave, short turnaround for us on the podcast, Tuesday to Wednesday. It's only been 24 hours, but a lot has occurred. Couple of Steelers roster moves. We both, did our deep dive into the All-22. So much for us to talk about. How you doing?
Doing very well. I got like 5 hours of sleep last night. So that's good. And the night after games is probably the best night, isn't it? Because you can sit there, especially the way things worked out last night. I think we were both kind of locking step in the offensive tape last night. And I had already done pretty much got most of my defensive looks out of the way, and I think you went back in and noticed a couple things today. So we should have a good talk today about what else showed up on the All-22 and start slowly looking ahead towards the Raiders game. And as you mentioned, there's some I also feel good because I have completeness now as well, too, with the old OCD and all. The Steelers got their roster back to back to 53. So I don't feel so uneven at this point.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's roster is now full from a 53-man roster perspective, signing two players, one in-house, one external. The in-house is nose tackle Breiden Fehoko being signed off the practice squad. Pittsburgh with the NFL's worst run defense through the first 2 weeks, allowing 386 yards on the ground to San Francisco and Cleveland. So Fehoko will provide some reinforcements as that classic old-school plugger. And also plucked off the Atlanta Falcons practice squad is running back Godwin Igwebuike, and he's going to probably do some return work, maybe some other special teams work to help replace Anthony McFarland, who is on IR. I know he's been kind of a core teams guy for them, and so Igwebuike will be the new name to the roster.
Yeah, and going to be interesting to see how they juggle things now. Obviously, Gunnar Olszewski coming in concussion protocol. Probably expect to see that on the Wednesday injury report. Didn't do himself any favors with that kickoff return the other night against the Browns there. Godwin's got plenty of experience kickoff returns, so I mean it's still early in the week, obviously, but if you're going to have a third running back active and dressed and want him to be able to function on special teams, you could probably kill two birds with one stone there with him. And as far as the Breiden Fehoko, I haven't gotten into the Raiders tape yet, but they don't run as much outside zone, I don't believe, do they?
I haven't gotten into too much of their offense yet. I don't believe they're the zone-heavy team the way that Cleveland was. They're probably more gap power, which is going to be in Fehoko's wheelhouse.
That's where I'm thinking as well too, and I think we could definitely see Fehoko get a helmet. But once again, we have to do the hard math and see how the injury report plays out. But they are back to a 53-man active roster again.
Yeah, you're right. We'll talk about it more for Friday's show, but they're not going to, in all likelihood, unless injuries really dictate it, have 7 defensive linemen active in this game. Although, I don't know. I mean, if you're getting, rolled on against the run as much as you are, maybe you have all 7 active. You can find a way to do it and try to rotate and have people for all situations. So we'll wait and see on that. They're overall in Pittsburgh will have their first injury report today, and so we'll start to get a lay of the land. I expect it to be probably a pretty lengthy list. The short week, the really physical game against Cleveland. We went through the notable injuries that Mike Tomlin talked about on Tuesday.
I would suppose that have a practice squad move coming today as well, too, wouldn't they?
That's true. Yeah, with Fehoko being called up or signed off the practice squad, that is going to open a spot there. Maybe some tryouts will come in today. I don't believe Pittsburgh actually officially had tryouts on Tuesday, probably because of the whole Monday situation, that quick turnaround to try to find people, get people in. That may occur actually today. I wouldn't be surprised if there was several tryouts, maybe a signing for the practice squad today.
All right. And Dr. Mel's got a great post up this morning about Minkah Fitzpatrick, right?
Yeah, outlines the chest injury that some of the stuff he might have been going through in the timetable, and can he play Sunday? And her bottom line is that there's reason to be optimistic. I think obviously Minkah avoided clearly any sort of serious injury, and much of the hospital visit was all precautionary, but not ruling him out to play against the Raiders Sunday night.
And I guess we've got probably another day and a half of the scuttlebutt about people trying to accuse Minkah Fitzpatrick of being dirty on the play with Nick Chubb, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, we shared our thoughts on that. I don't think you can make any reasonable case that's a dirty play. It's an unfortunate play, but safety going low on a running back near the goal line, that's what safeties do. When you're facing Nick Chubb, such a big, powerful, bruising runner, you have no idea when his knee's going to plant the way that you're kind of rolling into that. So no malicious intent at all. I mean, I'm not even going to go down the road, but James Harrison once talking about they've legislated it so much where you can't hit high, the guys start going low, and unfortunately that kind of goes for the knees more often. But again, Minkah's intent is not to injure or to have that kind of outcome. He's just trying to get a ball carrier on the ground.
What did Vince Williams tweet about that in the last 24 hours or something like that? He says, I've been ran over by Nick Chubb several times. Tackling him up high is not the best decision. He says injuries happen. Running backs are the least protected position on offense. Tell your kids to play another position. Boy, but that's a little lengthy to put on a bumper sticker, but I think it's effective.
Yeah, I think it's worth it overall, certainly. I mean, in terms of the order of what position your kid should play in sports, it's like left-handed pitcher and like running backs at the bottom of that list.
Long snappers rates are higher than than running back. Definitely. Look, if you could get your kid doing anything, probably be a left-handed golfer, wouldn't it? Would probably be up there, but then probably a left-handed pitcher would be up there. Then obviously, if you're getting into the into the NFL realm, if you could get him to play quarterback, fantastic. If he's going to play on a defensive side of the ball, probably a defensive tackle or an edge rusher, right? So for any of you listening with young kids, you're welcome.
Yeah, but all I know is running back is at the bottom of that list. I don't know what's in between. Don't know exactly what's at the top, but I echo that. And Minkah's been run over by Chubb before. Remember the playoff game, and was at 2020. Chubb has gotten his. So again, I think it's much ado about nothing. I mean, I think most of those, anyone accusing Minkah of doing anything malicious or dirty, it's the emotion, an emotional reaction probably from Browns fans seeing their guy, Nick Chubb, who again, fantastic player, fantastic person. You hate to see that for him. You wish him the speediest of recoveries. It's probably just kind of a venting frustration, anger that comes out of that. And then just because it's the Steelers and the Browns and this rivalry and all that kind of stuff probably boils over as well.
How about tell your quarterback not to grab on the face mask? How's that?
And then don't blame Pittsburgh for grabbing the face mask. I don't even understand. I mean, grabbing the face mask is one thing, but somehow blaming the Steelers for that is just insanity.
Yeah, this is, Steelers versus any AFC North team. Stuff like this happen. You're going to have both sides going at each other. All right, enough with that nonsense.
Let's mention one injury thing before we get into the All-22. Maybe a bit shorter show today since we covered so much ground on Tuesday's show. But Cam Heyward was back for his Not Just Football podcast, which actually was all about football, basically. Today, his first, basically, media appearance since landing on injured reserve, having the groin surgery last Thursday, expected to return around Thanksgiving. Although don't tell that to Cam Heyward. He's saying timetables are for other people. Quote, I make my own. And so he's talked about how he's been cleared earlier to return from every injury he's ever had. And, he's not giving a timetable. He's not saying exactly when he thinks he'll be back, but it's safe to say he probably wants to beat the quote unquote expectations for when he's supposed to return.
What was the exact quote on the timetables from him?
Let me pull it up here. Quote, there's timetables out there, but I'm not a regular person. Every injury I've been part of, I've been cleared earlier. It's not going to stop me from working. Timetables are for other people. I make my own, end quote.
All right. Not a bumper, not a long bumper sticker. It's a little bit wordy to put on a t-shirt maybe, but look, I wouldn't doubt him. But as we know, he's going to miss at least the next 3 games, and obviously the speculation ahead of that was to expect him to miss around 8. So we'll just see.
Yeah, I mean, he can obviously return earlier than that, so has to get designated to return and start practicing, and that'll be the guide for us getting an understanding of when he may return. But hopefully, the sooner the better. Obviously, and he also said he's not going to rush it and be stupid about this, but. I mean, this run defense without Cam Heyward is going to be pretty rough, I think, until he comes back.
I would agree. And looking at the tape, on the defensive side of football, and look, you got a young kid in there. I think you pointed out this morning on Twitter with Keanu Benton, and they were trying their best to get him. That's one of those instances where you just need we've seen in the past, just run up and smack him on the butt, right?
Right. Remember Vince Williams? Yeah. He could get your attention. That's a guy that would get your attention. I mean, to me, it was just a funny moment. Benton not shifting the wrong way, and then everyone screaming at him to shift over, and he just is not hearing it.
Right.
Let's get into the all-22, though, Dave. I still got to work through some of the defense. I've gotten like halfway through. I've gotten through the entire offense. So let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, though, Dave. What are your impressions? Is there any different feeling? I imagine it's not going to be tremendously better, but is there any different feeling of why this offense is sputtering and struggling?
Well, first and foremost, they got to run. They got to be able to figure out a way to start running the football, because that's going to be the single best way to take some of the onus off of the passing game, Kenny Pickett and all that. And they've got to figure this out. And I did some stats, deep dive them. If you already were feeling bad enough about this offense at this point, man, the rushing game obviously has been non-existent right now. And I'm trying to pull up where I had the post on this. This team has 90,
another warning coming in terms of kids and faint of heart and all that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, it's probably going to be like this. We just need to have a standard disclaimer, probably for this podcast for the next several weeks until things, or hopefully things turn around or get somewhat better. But this team through the first 2 games has 96 net yards rushing at this point. Now, mixed in with that are 3 kneel downs for -3 yards. So if you would like to cherry pick and take those away, you're still talking about 99 net yards rushing for this team without the kneel downs. That's obviously under 100. How bad is that? Or how am I supposed to set up? Or it's bad, and you're supposed to say how bad
is it?
Yeah. Well, it's so bad that from a historical standpoint, according to Pro Football Reference, the last time the Steelers rushed for less than 100 total yards through their first 2 games of a season, talking about weeks 1 and 2, was in 2013. That 2013 team registered all of 75 net yards on the ground through week 2 of the season on 31 total attempts, which is the same amount of attempts this 2023 team. Now, moving past 2013, only one other time has a Steelers team rushed for less than 100 yards combined in the first 2 games since the merger. 1978, I was 2. At the time. That season, the 1970 Steelers managed to rush for a combined 89 yards to the first through the team's first 2 games, and on 50 total carries at that. 50 for 89 in 1970. So what does all this mean? Well, I mean, it's not great, Bob. And if this team does not rush for at least 60 yards against the Raiders on Sunday night, we will be talking historically about the Steelers' worst rushing team through the first 3 games, weeks 1 through 3 of a season if they don't hit 60. And I don't
ever. You're saying ever?
Well, since the merger.
Since the merger.
And now the PFF records go back to 1964, I think, and so it's the worst since, assuming all that's right, it's the worst since 1964. But everybody likes to use since the merger, so I'll use since the merger in 1970 as far as that goes. But look, I mean, all this mumbo jumbo aside, I mean, it's bad. And they're going to have to figure this thing out. Now, the run blocking hasn't been great. And look, everybody runs the same thing, right? It's not like you're going to get that uber creative as far as scheming it up. You're just going to have to start executing and start blowing people off the ball and getting some yards here. But back to the original point in question there. The best thing to help this offense, I think, is to run the football better and get yourself out of situations where you're having to drop back 40, 50 times a game.
Sure. We saw that the first half of last year where Kenny Pickett really struggled. I mean, not that I'm defending Pickett. I think he's struggled mightily, and it's been really worrying. But when you have no semblance of a run game, it's hard for your quarterback to really get into a rhythm. When you're off schedule and you're in second and third and long, as Pittsburgh so often is, I'll have some stats on the really bad first down production this year, and that follows suit from past years. It's hard to really establish anything and get a drive and a good possession going. So I thought, though, Pittsburgh ran about every run concept you can run against the Browns. I mean, it was a lot of zone. They ran crunch. They ran some wham blocks. The perimeter runs I didn't like, but they were trying those. They tried that design. Actually, I think I take back what I said on Tuesday on that failed 3rd and 1 late in the game. I don't think there was a pitch option for Pickett to Washington. I think that was designed for Pickett, if he pulls it, to carry that one the whole way. But there was that. One thing we haven't seen, and I'm not sure why they've really kind of been anti this, but not many pulling guards, not many gap schemes. And you have, say, Amali, you have Daniels, you have athletic guys with some power. I mean, it's like the one thing they really haven't done much of. And for a team that wants to play some bully ball, get some down blocks on the front side, of pulling guard around and back behind, I think it's a good concept you should probably try out a little bit.
I would agree. You know how much, that wouldn't hurt my feelings, right?
Right. Yeah, you love pulling guards. But it's like the one thing, I mean, they've done everything else in that game. Besides, did they pull the guard once on a run play against the Browns?
Stat on it? I don't believe they did. I'll have to look.
Yeah. I mean, I know against San Francisco, they didn't run the ball much, but I don't know if they pulled in that game. So have they not run one power gap scheme through 2 games?
Let me see. I'm not going to be able to pull that up on the fly without wasting too much time, but I'll look.
So that's surprising.
If it has happened, it hasn't happened, but just 1 or 2 times.
Right. And they didn't do much of it last year. And maybe that's just not what Pat Meyer likes to do. I think he controls the run game more than Matt Canada controls the run game. But if your whole ethos of your team is bully ball, power, let's be physical, it's not like they're running a Shanahan system where they got small guys that are running zone schemes. You're not going to run power. Okay, that's something else. But that is surprising with your run game floundering the way that it is. I mean, you might as well at least try it.
I would agree, and it'd be interesting to see if they do that. I'll have to go, and that'll be part of the, I think, tape study too, to see if where the Bills' success came from. But I watched that. I had that game on here on the big screen, and I can't remember them running that much of pullers either.
Pittsburgh or Buffalo?
Buffalo.
Buffalo. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what their personality is and what all they did in that game. I just know for Pittsburgh, because I think they were creative. I mean, I think you can run a bunch of different stuff. And I thought Pittsburgh was trying to pull out all the stops to do something. I mean, I think, just not winning the point of attack. I think linebackers, I'm going to do a video probably on this or an article or some sort of film room where I'm just seeing linebackers run free, both in the 49ers game and in this game. When you have Fred Warner running free, when you have JOK unblocked routinely, you're not going to make hay when you got those guys, just reading the running back and driving downhill.
Oh, yeah. There was at least in that Browns game alone, probably four or 5 instances of unblocked linebackers.
Yeah, I don't care what system you have. I don't care what lineman you sign. I don't care what running back you have. You're not going to win those battles. If you want 1-on-1 versus corners, that's fine. Make corners tackle. But you got linebackers free. I don't even care who the linebacker is, but certainly talented ones like Warner, like JOK, you're dead to rights.
Buffalo also ran for what, 183. Now you got 183 net yards. Now you got a guy like Josh Allen, but even Josh Allen didn't take off but a handful of times, I think, for 7 yards in that game. How many Bills offensive linemen can you name?
Oh man, I'm trying to go back. Deion Dawkins at left tackle. I mean, they played him this year. I don't know how many starters they had in this one. I'm like stuck in like 5 years ago with Eric Wood and all those guys, and I know that he's no longer with the team. Is Mitch Morse at center for them?
Yes, sir.
All right, I might tap out there. I've not done my bill. I have no reason to do my bill study right now, but I'm probably tapped out on those 2 names right now.
You know, they got Torrance at right guard, right?
Oh yeah, the rookie. Yeah.
Brown, the right tackle. Isn't that the Brown, the small school kid?
UNI, the big right tackle. Yeah, Spencer Brown.
And McGovern at left guard. And
one of the Connor McGoverns. Yeah.
Right. And you had mentioned Dawkins there. So.
Yeah.
But I would take a hard look at the success that the Bills had and copycat it as best as possible and see if you can execute it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into our preview on Friday and maybe hopefully talk to a Raiders guy, but I've gone through their defense and they actually are kind of like Buffalo. And because I was doing, advanced, quote unquote, early tape study because of the whole short week here for this Browns game and for the upcoming Raiders game. The Raiders don't play a base 4-3. They play nickel. I mean, they are a nickel team. You could be 12 personnel, you could be 13 personnel. They are going to run their nickel defense with 5 DBs. They're going to ask Nate Hobbs to kind of be their Mike Hilton. I think Tomlin compared them to Teron Johnson in Buffalo because they're a nickel personality defense. And so if the Raiders are going to stick with that, you better run the heck out of the football because the Raiders, for whatever reason, they don't go really big personnel defensively.
Okay. That's something to note.
Yeah, that was one of my big takeaways there when I was watching the Raiders in some early scouting there. What else here from the offense, though, Dave? Kenny Pickett.
Look, I mean, it's sort of along the lines of the 40. There were throws there for him to make. He didn't make them. Now, a couple of the things that we saw, early in the game, you had kind of that sell to let's call it the Gunnar Olszewski play because it's easy for everybody to identify with that one. On that play, I really thought he's looking right at it when Pickens is coming out of his break. Now, it's hard to get a eye level view of sight level view, but it feels like he should have drilled that to Pickens on that play. And I understand the corner on the other side was starting to sink, but there's still, there's a lot of space, there, Alex, in my opinion. And I don't know. I think Kenny talks to the media, I think today. Be interesting to see if all of our sleuthing and Twitter post ends up him getting asked about several of these things. That's one I'd be curious to know what his thought process was, why he came off of that, went to Gunner on the other side. Now, to his credit, they ran that couple of quarters later, I believe, and it's going the same direction too, which is normally you see that stuff kind of flipped, but they did flip they flipped the sides on that and mixed up the alignment and grouping, I think, a little bit there, and ran little slightly different route combination, maybe to widen it a little bit there, but there was actually, it looked like a little less room than what he had in that first throw, but he drilled the second one to George Pickens on basically what you could call the same play there, and there are, maybe a few other instances. We both at the same time. You were in my computer last night. I don't appreciate that.
I'm hacking in, Dave, like a bad '90s movie.
On that underneath crosser to Calvin Austin there. Man, if he puts, I'm not saying that goes to the house, but would like to have seen what would have happened if you would have hit Calvin Austin in stride there and let him turn it up.
I got some pushback, people blaming Austin for that. I think that's on Pickett. I don't know your thoughts, Dave.
I thought it was on Pickett too. Yeah, I mean, he was behind him. That's a tough catch. I mean, people, I can see people saying, well, he's got to catch that. Okay, well, if he catches that, he's probably diving backwards and on the ground and all like that. But I mean, to prevent all that happen, just hit the kid. He could have got that ball out quicker too. It feels like,
To To me, that's a layup. That's a shallow cross. Pocket's good. Austin's, no one's within 3, 4, 5 yards of him. I mean, that's a 7-on-7 type of throw. And yeah, maybe Austin should have made the catch. His catch radius is really small. You kind of have to really throw it between the numbers. But even if he makes the catch, he's slowing down. He's turning back. It's hurting his yak. I mentioned last year, I thought Pickett was not as good as people thought in some of those crossing routes and out routes and stuff where, receivers had to consistently turn back for the football. And I'm not seeing the improvement there this year.
Yeah, we talked about this the other day, right? It doesn't seem like, it feels like his decision making, his clock's a little bit off. I almost wonder if he is pressing it a little bit, trying to be too perfect, maybe. And thinking about some things too much.
I think that's valid. I mean, it's hard to say for sure, obviously, but I think that might be one component of it. I think he's just missing some layups. I mean, if he just hit the layups, his game's going to look, twice as good as it does right now. I mean, I can't pinpoint exactly what the problem is, but I just wrote down 3 things of just some random thoughts last night as I was going through the tape. They're just bad on first down. They're 28th in the NFL in first down yardage right now. And so when you're in second and long, but you're in third and long, you're just never really getting into a flow of a drive. B, there is no run game, not to absolve Pickett completely, but when you have, just a horrific run game that's doing nothing, it's really not aiding a second-year quarterback. And then C, and probably more on Pickett, he loves to take the one-on-one sideline shot. It's got that Ben mentality of that's where he wants to put the ball, and defenses are not letting him do that. There is no back shoulder throw. There is no jump ball downfield. Defenses are playing soft. They're playing off. They're keeping everything in front. And I don't think Pickett's as comfortable when he's not able to make some of those, cover 1v1, let your guy go get it type of plays.
How many times through like the first 2.5 games that Pickett played last year did we see those back shoulders to George? 6?
Oh, a ton. I don't know how many it was, but I mean, he took it every opportunity that he could, and right on him, because Pickens is the guy you want to throw to like that.
Right. And I don't think we've seen him hit one of those yet, right?
Even attempted one. I mean, mostly because it's just not been there. The corners have been playing off. It seems, 49ers played a bunch of cover 3, cover 4. The Browns are playing. I mean, they would roll up kind of in some press man situations, but they'd also, play their corners off quite a bit.
Look, this is multi-layered, and even if Pickett, we talk about Pickett, not hitting some of these that he probably should. There needs to be more of these for him to hit. But it would change the overall perception, I think, of some things if he would have hit another 3 or 4 of these coming out of the first 2 games. But once again, we're seeing a lot of the same, basic stuff. And Matt Canada, when he talks on Thursday, is going to say, yeah, there's some stuff there that Kenny can hit. No, and I've got to do a better job. And Kenny's got to do, we all got to do a better job. We got to execute better. That's on me and all like that. And it's the same old thing. And, we're not, it's hard to believe at this point we're going to see massive improvements schematically. It's going for there to be improvement offensively. I feel at this point it's going to be more of an execution thing.
Sure. And I don't know if I had a huge issue with the pass game schematics in this game. I'm still a bit frustrated by how independent these routes can be. And it's been a lot of just kind of counting on the guy to win his one-on-one matchup. But going through the tape, I honestly didn't think that the pass concepts were a real issue. I thought some of the run game stuff was funkier and some of the perimeter stuff was kind of, beating your head against the wall. But I don't know if I'd sit there and really blame the passing game play calls as a huge issue for why Pickett struggled.
All right, Dan Orlovsky.
Do you feel the same on that, though? I mean, is there something that you saw that you said this pass concept is really not putting Pittsburgh in a good position? Just in this game?
Just in this game? I mean, he missed some throws. I mean, he missed some throws that could have made this a lot better.
Right. So you're in agreement. I mean, again, there's some things I like to see better. I think the route concepts are still just kind of lazily all 1v1, but what do you think?
I think it's an equal combination of the two. Overall, I mean, I'd like to see more switch routes. I'd like to see, I mean, look, and we went over the numbers the other day. Even on the shorter stuff, he wasn't hitting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, I think there was probably some more work to be done to design guys open. I mean, I think his best play call candidates was that 30-yarder completion to Jalen Warren. That's a beautiful play call that's designed to get him open, and it did.
I mean, I guess you're asking me to absolve Canada a little less. I guess to some degree, because I mean, you're clouded.
I'm just asking for your thoughts. I'm just asking what you think.
I think it's equally on both of them to this point right now. And once again, I if you make some of these plays, it's going to really change the shape of games. And even if you're able to run the football, well, you have to run it much better at this point. But I think all of it coincides with each other.
Sure. I mean, again, it's not either or; it's both and. I want to make that super clear. But I think Pickett's just missing a lot. I think defenses are
there have been a good 9 throws, I think, at a minimum that Kenny could have made that probably were game impacting throws
in these first 2 games combined.
Right,
you're saying,
right.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah, and I just can't explain or really understand why he's struggling with some of the basic stuff. I mean, I
was good to see them come back to that play again that we talked about, that and then even mix it up a little bit. I mean, they were going the same way, but at least they flipped sides of where to play where the route combination was on that. They did mix up the formation a little bit, and the yardage wasn't exact, as far as down and distance. I mean, it was close, but I mean, that's how they build these play sheets, though, right? You're looking at situations, you're looking at field position, down distance, game situation, how far behind you are, and all like that. So I think Canada did everything that he could do when going back to that play to see if they could make it successful again. And right. I think there are instances in these first 2 games where he is attempted to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that in the 49ers game with some of those shallow cross, post route combinations. They thought they could hit that early in that game because Pickens got 1v1. They went back to it. It got covered up. The pass was incomplete. But yeah, this was a good example of, okay, we had this thing open earlier. Let's go back to it. So, and it was good to see Pickett hit that and drill that one. So that's small encouraging signs, but obviously need a whole lot more of that.
It wasn't as boring, I didn't think, offensively with the pass schematics in the game against the Browns as it was that opener.
Correct. Although to be fair, when you have a closer, more competitive game, the game script is a little bit friendlier to opening up your playbook a bit. So yeah, I mean, again, there's things you can certainly look at. I think again, the run game, some really questionable choices in play calling and design there, and some stuff in the pass game to tweak. But I think it started more with I think it was more on Kenny Pickett than Matt Canada, to be honest, in terms of the pass game concepts. Of why this passing game struggled.
Okay, that's fair. How many 2nd and 5 or shorters has this team been in this year, Alex?
I mean, they are the 28th ranked team in offense on first down, so they're in 2nd and long. Their 3rd down rate is not that bad. They're kind of maybe about average, maybe a bit below in 3rd down distance to go, so they're not terrible offenders in those situations, but they probably aren't in many 2nd and 5s because they're averaging, I think I have the number somewhere, it's like 4.7 yards per play on first down.
Let's see here if I can pull this up. You might have killed just enough time for me.
I was trying to vamp there a little bit. But because I mean, I was checking the numbers, and this has been a theme, and I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. They're scribbled in my notes somewhere, but under Canada, they've been among the NFL's worst offenses on first down every single year. I think they were 31st one year, 32nd one year, and they're currently 28th through 2 games of this year. So they're just a bad first down team, and that's putting themselves behind the 8 ball pretty early in drives.
2nd down between 1 and 5 yards to go, 10 plays. And The Raiders are at, there's only two teams worse than they are in those situations. The Bengals with 9 and the Cardinals at 9. That's not an area. That's not that based on, that's not where you want to be, obviously, in these rankings here. So look, if they could, it all starts on first down. We're high level analysis there. But if they can start making some things happening and getting in more, where defenses are at least guessing a little bit more, and how many obviously, second and long and third and long situations are way too many. They're just getting behind the 8 ball. So you start figuring out some things on first down. I think the complexion will change a little bit.
Sure. The question is, how do you figure that out? How do you get this run game on track? Because it feels like very little is working right now. And I think teams are stacking the box. I think they're going 8-man fronts. I think they're playing a lot of cover 3. They're not getting beat deep. The corners are playing off. They're stopping the run. They're getting +1 in the box count. So what do you do? How do you solve that?
You're just going to have to, with will, I think.
Right.
You're going to have to execute up front. And sometimes I think they're out thinking themselves on some first downs and coming out throwing. They came out throwing again what was the first one? To Allen Robinson, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, the sprint out, the first play of the game.
Right. I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, and that's maybe that's why they did. Let's get 4 or 5 yards.
Yeah, easy play.
Let's then do that more on first downs. Until teams start taking away from it from you.
Sure, but the Steelers want to run the ball. Their whole offseason was built around we want to run the ball, and you had the good quip. This team wanted to play bully ball, and they are doing anything but playing bully ball right now. And so they want to run the ball. They need to establish the run, and it's not happening. And I don't know what are they gaining on runs on first down? That's got to be a pretty ugly number. I mean, maybe it's inflated by maybe one of the explosive runs. I don't know when those came, but I mean, I imagine their first down run production, I'm going to look it up here as we talk, is among the worst in football.
Yeah, I would imagine you are right there. I mean, you do have a couple of, you've got of all these 96 net yards they have. Doesn't Najee have
two explosive runs? He's got
two explosive runs within there.
He's got more 20+ yard runs this year than he had all last year, despite the Steelers' run game being just terrible.
Right.
Let's try to see where Pittsburgh is at. Yeah, they're averaging 3.2 yards per carry on first down runs. That is not the worst in football. It's around, 27th or so in the league. The Rams are the worst at 2.5.
Do you have the play-by-play down there? How many, was there any explosive runs in that set?
I can check if you just give me 1 second here
because we're still obviously dealing with a fairly small sample size overall.
Sure. Probably not then if they're that low. There's not been many first down runs. Has there really been that few? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm getting a data set here incorrect. Give me 1 more second. I have to refine the data, but yeah, I mean the bottom line is the run game. I really think they should run more gap scheme. I think you signed 2 guards the last 2 off seasons in Daniels and say Malu. I mean they're athletic guys, they're physical guys. Should be able to run the ball with them. It looks like actually Najee Harris he's got a 21-yarder and a 17-yarder on 1st and 10. So
how many total 1st and 10 runs?
Looks like from running backs 12 and Pickett has 3. Those might be some kneel downs or some other stuff going on there.
All right, so it's been kind of feast. You've had a couple of feasts and a whole lot of a little bit more famine.
Yeah, I mean they're averaging 3.2 yards despite having a 21-yarder and a 17-yarder to skew the numbers, and they're still among the worst in football. I mean, if you look at how many negative plays they've had on 1st and 10 runs, okay, we take out the kneel downs. They've had 3 of their, what did I say? 3 of their 12 runs by running backs have been negative in terms of losing yardage. They've had 2 others go for no gains, and so 5 of their 12 have either been no gains or yards lost on 1st and 10 runs, which is just terrible ways to start a possession or start a first down.
Right. So the focus this week should be not that it wasn't the last two weeks, but I would hyper focus on first down. We have got to get 4 or 5 or more yards on first down. What can we do to do that? either in the run game or the quick pass game or what have you.
100% with you, Dave. And the Raiders defense on paper, nothing is easy in the NFL, but I think it's an easier defense, easier front than what they dealt with San Francisco and Cleveland. So you better, my point is, you better just show it up this week. There's no excuses.
Right.
All right. What positives here from the offense? George Pickens, I think his route tree, his yak, really been impressive, which is good because teams are really denying him vertically. He's not able to run, the go balls that he did all last year. Defenses aren't dummies. They know what Pickens' MO is. With Deontay Johnson being out, Pickens is the guy to try to take away. And so obviously he got open on that 71-yard touchdown, but it's good to see him refine his game because I think the George Pickens of last year would have struggled mightily because the vertical 9 routes are just not there for him.
I would agree, and at least one of the positive takeaways in here so far is the fact, and look, Deontay on the play that he went down with a hamstring injury had some good yak there. We have fortunately seen when there have been some completed passes, there be some yak attached to it, and that's one of the things we definitely needed to see how this offense moving into 2023 that didn't get enough of in last 2 seasons, to be honest with you there. But at least we are seeing some yak when they are getting some stuff complete. They just need to complete more of those again. Yeah. Obviously.
I'm really surprised though, and maybe I missed it. I didn't see one double move in that game, no sluggos, and I thought for sure they would have run one because they were calling so many slants in that game.
Okay.
So that's probably one more critique on Canada for something he didn't do, the absence of something. He running all those slants. The Browns are pretty aggressive. They're jumping some of those routes, and that would have been a time to at least attempt a double move. Maybe it doesn't work, but at least attempt it and get vertical for a big play.
Okay, I would agree.
Any other thoughts here for the offense?
Some of that in.
Yeah, I mean, I think just in terms of the run game, to go back to that, you're trying to get some extra in the line. It has to start with them, but the tight end blocking, I don't think it's been that great either. Freiermuth is not giving you really anything. Washington with angles and down blocks can be effective, but I think on some of these base blocks, he got blown back at least on one play there. So, it's always small things. It's always kind of this guy just did this better. This guy did this better. This run would have worked. But this is a lot of sloppiness too. I mean, you got Pickett on a play action. He steps on Najee's leg and they almost falls. And
was that the one he slipped on? I looked at that 2 or 3 times where he had to put his hand on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Did he hit Najee on that, or was it a slip?
No, he stepped on Najee's foot. Najee almost stumbled too, and so that's that. They tried to run crunch, and I forget what happened. I think maybe Najee stepped on Dan Moore's leg or something like that. It had a chance, or I think Washington stumbled or just dumb stuff like that. Just little things. I mean, run game is all about cleaning up the little things and executing the details. You do that, you're going to get some big plays, and it's just not detail oriented right now.
All right, we'll see if they can fix it against the Raiders.
Yep. All right, over to the defense now, Dave. What are your takeaways going back to the All-22?
Defense against the run, getting pushed around way too much, missed gaps, again, tackling bad. My thoughts overall, coming out of what we talked about just yesterday. I mean, it wasn't that I was that enlightened by going through all the All-22 on it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Browns had a good game plan, especially early. And again, I'm not through the entire All-22. I'm basically through the first half. But they spread the field out. Pittsburgh was a nickel, and the Browns were able to get good double teams with that big physical offensive line. They could climb at the linebackers. They were really getting hats on people. Pittsburgh couldn't get off of blocks. There was probably some run fit issues. But I thought the Browns did a good job early of putting Pittsburgh in nickel and taking the nose tackle out and just securing strong double teams. You get Chubb into the second level, and he's going to do some damage.
Okay.
Other thoughts here? Any thoughts on the corner play or the secondary play as you kind of watch this one back, Dave?
For as bad as Levi played overall, I thought there were some good coverages downfield, particularly one on that one. Who was it against? Moore down the left side. I thought he was in. The ball was actually completed, but it was out of bounds. I thought I thought he was real sticky on that play, so I thought that was a good rep there. But overall, it hasn't been a great start to the season for any cornerback not named Joey Porter Jr. And obviously, there's only been 21 defensive snaps with Joey Porter on the field. So what does that tell you if you're saying, okay, the best corner play so far through 2 games is a rookie?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I really, in watching the All-22, I benefited from this, but the third down breakup that he had early in the game, I mean, he's playing off coverage. I think Pittsburgh's in cover 3 on that play in the transition, flip your hips and drive. Those are things that aren't necessarily in his wheelhouse. He's usually a press man type of corner, get hands on early, as he did on the fourth down play to win the game. But that 3rd and 8 breakup to me might have been more impressive just because it was him doing stuff that he hasn't done a lot of, and that's hopefully a sign of things to continue.
You got too many, the Levi Walls cutback we talked about the other day. It feels like you got people trying to do too much. Just everybody do your job. And I thought Holcomb played a pretty good game overall, but I think there was even a snap or two where he's getting pushed around a lot there, especially early in that game. You could see him getting worked off of the line of scrimmage against obviously a very good Cleveland Browns offensive line. The yards after cut, once again, and look, I mean, Ford came into the game and still ran pretty good as well too, but it was really evident early in that game. They were getting hands on Nick Chubb within, it felt like a yard of the line of scrimmage on a lot of those plays. It's just he ended up 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 yards down the field still.
Yeah, I still got to go through all the tape on that. But as I mentioned yesterday, I think if you just made the stops that you had stopped essentially, where the running back looks like he's dead to rights, and you just make those plays, and even if you give the Browns everything else that they got in this game, your run defense, you probably allow 100 yards in that game instead of the 198 that they did. So again, it's just details. Run defense is so much about details, just effort, details, a little bit of technique, and if you do all those things, your run defense is at least not going to suck. It's going to be decent. And they're just missing out on some of those things right now.
They really, and I understand the Raiders have Josh Jacobs and all like that, but I mean, this is a, you talk about the first 2 teams versus a team like the Raiders when it comes to the running attack. I mean, if they can't what I'm getting at is I really am expecting a rebound, at least in the run defense when it comes to this week against the Raiders. And if they don't have that, then you kind of wonder, well, how much more. What's the progress going to look like moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, they shut down Jacobs last year, but that was with Cam Heyward, and I just don't know how good. I mean, the run defense without Cam, I think it's not going to be good. Can it just be not a killer? And that's kind of my goal right now. I'm not quite sure how close they're going to get to that point.
Would you 2-gap more?
I mean, you have some guys that can penetrate though. Like Juan Adams is not a 2-gapping kind of guy. Ogunjobi can get upfield. So I mean, you mix and match.
Maybe you put Fehoko on and 2-gap some.
Sure, yeah, he's not 1-gapping, that's for sure. I mean, it may depend on the guys that you have and the game plan, the opponent that you're facing, and all that kind of stuff. What do you think about a guy like Montravius Adams though? He's a hard guy to figure out. He's just kind of an atypical body type and player in the middle.
Look, for the longest time during the 53-man prediction process, I had him off, right?
Right.
And for the main reason is it's clear. I mean, he's at his ceiling and has been at his ceiling. So that was one of the reasons why I kind of thought, maybe they might move on from him before the 53. But I don't think you're going to get any more out of him than what you're getting out of him now. Now, he did have some good pass rush snaps, as I noted in this game against the Browns. But against the run, there's just too many instances of him, A, either getting turned out or B, backed up 3 yards.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, he's a penetrator. You're right. He got used in sub-package quite a bit, and the pass rush with him, with Ogunjobi, I thought was effective overall. He runs with the football. He's a really good athlete. I mean, he tried to hawk down McCaffrey at the end of his touchdown run in week 1. There was a play, I think Deshaun Watson, a weird scramble where Adams is running. I mean, this guy's a good athlete, but
saw Larry on the hoof on one of that foot's looking good coming out of that game.
Or some of just adrenaline, maybe just pure adrenaline there. But yeah, I mean, I think, but I mean, do they have guys though that can take on a double team and anchor? I don't know if they have that guy right now anywhere. I mean, Heyward was that guy, and of course he's now removed. I mean, who is the guy that can just hold a point of attack against the run? Fehoko can be that guy. I think that's why he got the call up. But who else can join him?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because Leal, Leal can win one-on-one. He can get upfield a little bit. He can't anchor. Ogunjobi's not really an anchor type of dude, probably better than most of these guys. Adams isn't that guy. I think Benton still got work to do as a rookie. Watts, haven't seen a lot out of him, just because I haven't had not a lot of exposure. Loudermilk really is supposed to be that guy. To me, he's not really that guy. So you just don't have the guys that can really anchor and hold the point of attack against the run.
Well, you're definitely missing. I mean, well, that goes without saying, missing Cam up front.
Right. So is Velko dressing this game? I know we're early in this thought, and we got to see the injury report and all that. But
all right, well, we don't know obviously as far as elevations, but let's work off of a 53 right now. Mason Rudolph's going to be down. Dylan Cook's probably going to be down.
Mm-hmm. Des Fitzpatrick,
a wide receiver,
Olszewski.
Wide receiver is going to be down. One of those two.
Can we get Desmond King a hat? Maybe a good run stuff and nickel might help this week. But
yeah, a lot of people upset about him not getting a helmet yet. But look, say what you will about Shandon Sullivan, but it wasn't I didn't think it was an overly bad game against Cleveland.
I mean, he slipped on the touchdown to Ford. That was his guy. I mean, he had the breakup that you mentioned on that nickel blitz. That would have been probably a big play to Cooper, but he gave up the touchdown. Was it a bad game? I don't know, but you allowed a touchdown on that one.
A corner's going to be down.
Yeah.
So is it King or is it Sullivan?
Yeah, who knows? It'll be one of them.
Then who would your fifth one be?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, you typically would think it's going to be a defensive lineman. How did Watts play? I really haven't gone through the tape enough to get a comfortable evaluation.
I didn't zero in on him. Okay. I didn't.
How many snaps did he get? I mean, he didn't get. I didn't feel like Loudermilk was getting a lot of snaps either. I don't know what the exact counts on those guys. Watts played 22 snaps. What did Loudermilk have in this game? He was kind of losing some snaps.
14
for Loudermilk.
Yeah, 14 for Loudermilk.
He played 31 in the opener against the 49ers. I mean, I think he's mainly a base guy. And so when Pittsburgh was in a fair amount of sub package, then his role is going to be kind of reduced. So maybe that was the reason why.
So more than likely a defensive lineman is going to be down then.
Yeah, but I still contend if your run defense is this much of an issue, let's have all those guys active and in there. And I don't know who the odd man out elsewhere would be. Maybe an injury would dictate that. But I mean, you need, if it's a by committee, all hands on deck approach to replace Cam Heyward, and it is as it should be, then let's have all hands on deck. And I mean that literally.
All right.
Any other thoughts here, Dave, going through the all-22 of this game?
No, I think we've hit on most of it there.
All right. So anything else here for us to talk about? I'm kind of losing my notes in my place here. Am I missing anything? Ben had his podcast that came out yesterday.
He's a big Dan Moore fan, isn't he?
How did you think Dan Moore held up against Myles Garrett?
All right.
Was it as good as people think, or was it as bad as PFF says?
I think it's somewhere in the middle in there.
I think you're right. I thought he was. Garrett didn't kill you, but I mean Moore was not, shutting down Myles Garrett. Garrett had a lot of quick wins where if the ball was held for a second longer, whatever the case is, he would have lost those reps.
All right.
Yeah. So those are my thoughts there. Anything else? Any other final things? I've not gotten through special teams yet, but I'm sure Harvin, obviously, I thought punted pretty well.
Yeah, they need more of that moving forward. A nice hold on that one field goal that we talked about to get that turn around there. All right, shall we get to some of these reader emails here?
Yep, let's get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
Brandon talks about Godwin being the new kick returner, ? Placeholder till McFarland comes back. Gunner made one of the stupidest plays. He'll get confused and let them. I don't know what he's saying. I yelled, "You idiot!" so loud when he talked about Gunner there. Yeah, look, I think there's a good chance you see Godwin up and probably Gunner Olszewski down, and maybe Des Fitzpatrick gets a helmet this week. Obviously, concussion protocol. We'll have to see how that plays out here. Better third down from Jay. Who was better on third downs? Pittsburgh's offense or defense?
Who was better on third downs? Is this
right.
Sarcastic? I mean, I think the Browns, I forget the stats, but neither team I don't think was very good on third down offensively in this game. So.
No, he says Pittsburgh's offense or defense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying Pittsburgh's defense probably because
right.
the Browns were the Browns on third down. They were 5 of 16. Pittsburgh was 4 of 14. So I think the math just tells you that it was Pittsburgh's defense.
Brian Tellini, in reference to Brian Baldinger's breakdown of our 2-point conversion attempt, what in the world is going on with our offensive line? Why does our offensive line look like they are playing defense and almost reacted to what the defense did? He says, I heard bully ball all off season. This is anything but. Yeah, look, I mean, that was a horrible execution on that 2-point conversion try.
What did Baldy say? I didn't see the breakdown. Did you watch it?
It's hard to put into words. But he did. I don't think he liked the scheme overall, the blocking scheme.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it felt like they were trying to kind of just bury the Browns D lineman so Najee could leap over the top. I don't know how much of that is design and just how much of that is how the play unfolded, but obviously did not get the result that you wanted.
Chris Lookhart writes in, good morning. I want to bring up my question I asked before the first regular season game about how I thought this offense doesn't perform. It would mess up their confidence. I said what scared me was the fact they faced no adversity. They played perfectly. Do you think a little adversity in the preseason could have helped deal with the god-awful start? In other words, were they too perfect? Were they riding too high on confidence and didn't face enough adversity in those, 15 plays?
Yeah, I mean, I made mention of this. There were going to be some obstacles during the year, and the NFL is good about humbling you. And yeah, I mean, in hindsight, maybe a little adversity would have been nice, but I mean, is it really going to change the scope of things that much? Probably not.
Okay. I would agree. Where is my placeholder here? Lead legs Najee. Let's talk Najee Harris. Answer me these questions. What does Najee Harris do better in any area of the game as a running back than Jaylen Warren? Is it safe to say that based on where Najee was drafted, that going into year 3, we're getting close to a narrative where Najee is considered a draft bust? If he were a 4th or 5th round running back, fine, but we are talking about a 1st round pick. Based on what I'm seeing, he looks incredibly slow with next to no burst to the line and does not run with power to match his measurables. Granted, offensive line has been playing below the line. One of the worst starting running backs in the league right now. A couple of explosive runs in the first 2 games, but he looks slow, and I'm not impressed. What say you? I'll say this. He's got 2 explosive runs. But outside of that, that's been it for him. And yeah, it's only 2 games into the season, but that 5th-year option ain't looking great right now.
Yeah, I'm not really thinking about that too much right now. I mean, I think he's getting a little too much hate. I mean, it's not like Jaylen Warren is tearing up the run game. I mean, these are just baseline stats, but Harris has 4.6 yards per carry, 5 first downs on 16 carries, 37.5 run success rate, which is not good, but Jaylen Warren is averaging 2.9 yards per carry, 1 first down on 9 attempts, a 33.3 run success rate, and Najee has the 2 explosive plays. I mean, if Jaylen Warren makes that crazy cutback play that Harris did, we're all talking about how amazing Jaylen Warren is. Listen, I love Jaylen Warren. I think he's a really fun back. I think he's explosive. And we literally had the conversation I brought up before the season began about what does Harris do better than Warren. So we've talked about that before. But I just don't want to pretend like Warren is tearing it up in the run game and Najee's not. Najee has a 24-yard run, a 17-yard run, and a 21-yard run with an offensive line that is not blocked well. And Warren doesn't have those. So, and he's making plays in the pass game. And I love Warren on 3rd down as the receiving back. That's a great role for him. It should continue. But I think we're kind of forgetting about some of the actual positivity that Harris has and kind of blinding out some of the negative numbers that Warren has as well.
I think where Warren really has excelled at is in the passing game so far this season. Yeah,
had the big catch. And again, I think that 30-yard set reception he had was just great scheme. But I mean, Warren made the play. And Warren also had that blown up pass blitz pickup that got Kenny sacked. So, I mean, again, I think the roles are fine. I think people have kind of swung a little bit too hard on the Warren Harris debate.
Look, the whole running game's just been crap.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah.
Period. True. Now, look, I obviously, me and fungibility in a running back position and all like that. The only thing I'll say about Najee so far through these first 2 games is at least he's healthy, and B, at least he does have those 2 explosive runs. Man, you take those things away. What are we looking at with this offense right now? People know my thoughts. I don't hate Najee the player. I just don't think he should have been drafted in the 1st round.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel about my assessment, though? I mean, Warren, I'm not blaming Warren for the lack of run success. They really haven't been there, but it's not, again, Warren is averaging under 3 yards per carry.
No,
Harris is doing that.
it's not enough right now where Warren becomes your lead back. No.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
No. Now we'll see how things transpire, but I mean, it's going to take a lot for them to move in that direction and do something like that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not what they do, you know. Michael from Edinburgh. When everyone has been calling for Matt Canada's firing, I've been saying it's early. It's Kenny's second year. Surely Canada's offense will really develop and prove he is the right guy for the OC job. After watching the 3-play series he called with the third down play, what's your thoughts on that third down play after going back again?
The 3rd and 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, I thought initially there was a shovel component to it because they've run that kind of scheme a lot. I don't think there was. I think that's a design run for Pickett if he pulls the ball. I don't know what other options he has. Can he hand it off to Najee? Can he give it to Calvin Austin on that play? Maybe. I mean, it was, a weird play call and maybe being too cute. I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm one to criticize Canada, but I know if it works, people talk about how great of a play that it was.
Well, they'll criticize it and say good thing Kenny got that, or or something like that. It's going to be slanted against the offensive coordinator just because of the call in and of itself. Probably.
Yeah. I mean,
regardless of it's like going for it on 4th down, right?
Sure. Or a trick play that doesn't work. One of those. I mean, hey, listen. I mean, you can. I understand why to criticize it because it's a kind of pull this rabbit out of your hat there in a big time moment. I'd like to know what Allen Robinson was doing on that play. He kind of glitches out. I think he's just kind of standing there, and
the controller came unplugged or something there.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to crack. I don't know. The guy came down pretty quick there.
Look, if you got to resort to that to pick up 1 yard, what does it say about your confidence in a run game? I mean, you can't.
That's a good point.
You can't freaking lace them up and run straight ahead and get one.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So that would be my biggest criticism of it. Why turn to something like that when you're talking about just needing 1 yard? What does it say about your confidence in the whole run game that you have to run something like that?
That's fair. But
obviously, if he picks it up and they kill out the game, then okay. Nobody's probably talking as much about that play. But because it didn't work and you have to, you put the game in the balance after that, it becomes a talking point.
Yeah, and the run game has struggled. If the run game was doing a great job, then it'd be a really bad play call, but they've struggled to get a yard. So I can, at least at a baseline level, understand why they're trying to do something kind of creative to pick up that key yard.
Richard Jameson writes in, which is more likely during the remainder of this season? Someone other than Matt Canada? He has Mike Canada. Matt Canada will make the offensive play calls, or number 2, the Steelers will bench Kenny Pickett in favor of Mitch Trubisky. I realize that neither is very likely, but there is precedent for each, he says. Is there precedent for each? I mean, other than Mitch getting benched, which you got a first rounder behind you, Yeah,
and then in terms of play calling change, I'm not sure when that happened. I guess the Canada thing is more likely, but I'm not really thinking about either of those things right now.
Yeah, people are at the point where they just want us to tell them something. I think to latch on to is hope.
Yeah, I mean the hope is they're 1-1. You beat the Raiders, you get the Texans on tap. Not going to assume anything, especially playing on the road, but 2 quote unquote easier teams, easier defenses. You're going to win. Hopefully you can weather this storm with a couple of victories along the way and get right on the other side.
I'll read one more here from Tim Parker. I understand that there is little to no chance the Steelers will replace Canada midseason, but let's pretend it happens like aliens from outer space. It doesn't seem like a new OC mid-season can install a new offense. So what type of things could we expect from a new OC? Tweaks to the current offense, change in play calling. It seems either way they would be stuck with the crappy playbook and would have to wait until next offseason to install better offense. I think you answered your own question, Tim.
Yeah, you said it well. I mean, you can add some tweaks in the way that you call plays, and the game flow and all that can be different under a different person, but you're not making, sweeping changes to your offense.
Maybe change up some route combinations a little bit, but you kind of are what you are at this point, right?
Essentially, I mean, again, fresh new, especially an internal guy, which is what it would be, obviously, if they're going to replace Canada. So, I mean, there'll be some changes. I wouldn't say it's the same copy and paste thing, but it's not going to be sweeping reform.
All right. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, we'll come back on Friday and preview the Raiders game and have scouting reports ready and all that good stuff.
I'm trying to effort having Vinny back on. Remember Vinny? He's good. I think we've had him on a couple of times since last couple of times they played the Raiders here. So that's kind of what we're efforting for Friday. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar. So until Friday, thank you. Had a great day on the site there on Tuesday. Listenership's been great. We can't thank all of you enough for participating with us. So until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.